Good afternoon and welcome to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. I'm Frank Granito and I'm joined by my partner Donald Eng in studio. Don, our first attempt at 4 Nutmeg episodes in a week. Have you got enough energy left to get you through one more?
I think I might have just enough. Starting to think that third cup of coffee was a bad decision, but we plow forward.
We'll spend the majority of our show today previewing tomorrow's game of the week between the New Canaan Rams and the Ridgefield Tigers. But before we get to that, Don, we had volleyball yesterday between Staples and Ludlow. And what started out as a close match quickly turned on the defending FCIAC and state champions as Staples ran away with this one 3-0. Let's take a look at some of the highlights and see what happened. Good afternoon and welcome to the gymnasium on the campus of Staples High School. This one touches just off the net again. Up in the air, a little miscommunication amongst the Wreckers as the Falcons are rolling. And taking a timeout for Staples. Off the net, falls down. Staples takes the first set. Good rally here. Someone is going to have to earn this point. Set on the line for the Wreckers. Blocked at the net. Sent towards the back corner. Dropping down. It is 2-0 Staples as we head to the third set. And illegally played there. It was a double touch. 16-0 the score. Set to the middle. Steensma, it's long, and the Wreckers finish off the shutout in what was a dominant performance. Ginny, congratulations. What a dominating performance. What went well for the team out there today?
I think our defense played really well, and we definitely had hits from all around, and our mentality and emotion throughout the game really kept us in it. Yeah.
You guys were down 9-1 in that first set, and all the rumblings, at least between AJ and myself, were, well, Fairfield Ludlow is about to run the table in this conference. Right. What really turned at that moment in time when you guys took a timeout?
I think that we really knew that we're hoping for a state championship this year, and this is our first FCIAC game, and we weren't going to let it end like that. So we were excited to win. Yeah.
You got to that third set riding high, a lot of emotion and a lot of momentum. What did it mean jumping out to the 15-0 run at the start of it?
It was definitely really exciting. It definitely shows how strong a serving and passing team we are, and I think that really showed throughout the third set. Yeah.
It was such a balanced performance too. No one player really standing out. A contribution from everyone on the roster. How important is the depth of this team this year?
I think it's the whole team. There's every girl on the bench could go in and do a great job, and I think that that's so important that we have all these players that are just amazing. So yeah.
Well, Ginny, thank you so much. Congratulations again, and we look forward to seeing you guys the rest of the year. So congrats again to the Wreckers. A huge win for Staples, Don. They moved to 2-1 on the year, but what kind of momentum do they build off this for the Wreckers defeating the defending FCIAC and state champs?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's got to be a huge confidence builder for Staples. And really, you would think that Staples, having beaten the FCIAC and state champs, who can't Staples play with? And really, and what struck me watching the match, it didn't so much show up in the highlights, was the serving from Staples. Now, receiving serve is supposed to be an advantage, and if you can simply side out, you can stay in the match. But the serving from Staples had Ludlow back on their heels. If Staples can serve like that consistently, you got to like their chances against anyone.
They got to that third set and they took a 16-0 lead into the set. It was Zoe Holdred who served first for Ludlow, unable to earn the point. Then Anastasia Perry comes back and rattled off 15 consecutive points. Holding serve. It was really an unbelievable performance from the Wreckers, and there was so much depth, so many different players who stepped up and had big runs. There wasn't one girl who really carried the team. But you also now flip the script, and it's only Ludlow's first game, Don, but it's still a tough pill to swallow getting shut out. How do the Falcons bounce back from this loss against Staples?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, it was Ludlow's first game. It was Staples' third game. And you have to figure that from your first to your second game, conventional wisdom is that's where your team makes its biggest improvement of the season. And I kind of stole my own thunder with the first answer, but returning serve is key. Consistent passing. Ludlow was competitive in these games, but those long service runs just frustrated them, took them out of their game. When they got the ball to the setter, they did just fine. So that's what I look for them to clean up between their first and second game and for the rest of the season.
Again, the final score was 3-0 in favor of the Wreckers. The sets were 29-27. Staples came back from a 9-1 deficit in that first set, 25-20 and 25-4 in the third and final set. If you just caught the third set, you would have thought it was a blowout the entire match, Don, but it really wasn't the case. It was back and forth. It was very competitive.
Right. It just demoralized Ludlow in that third game.
It looked like that third set, Ludlow had just couldn't get a bounce to go their way and just looked morally defeated. So a tough loss for the Falcons, big win for the Wreckers, but we look forward and are excited to see what both teams have to offer for the rest of the fall season on the court. Let's take a quick break, Don, here on Nutmeg Sports, but when we get back, we'll be joined by Dave Stewart of the New Canaan Advertiser to preview the New Canaan side of tomorrow's game of the week between the Tigers and Rams right here on the HAN Network.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
At Mex on Main, Trumbull's very own Mexican grill, we're all about fresh, fast, and friendly service. Our Main Street restaurant offers the best in traditional and non-traditional Mexican dishes, with only the best ingredients, never frozen. From authentic burritos, fajitas, quesadillas, and salads, we have something on the menu for everyone in the family. And enjoy our open salsa bar, giving you more ways to customize your meal. Stop in for lunch or dinner at 6528 Main Street, Trumbull, or find out more at mexonmain.com.
At Elements Massage Ridgefield, we believe in quality services that are affordable and focused on therapy and healing. The licensed massage therapists are available 7 days a week, offering deep tissue and Swedish massage, as well as prenatal and couples massage. Special introductory rates are available now, or try our Elements trademarked wellness program. For more information, contact Elements Massage Ridgefield at 203-403-3348 or visit elementsmassage.com/Ridgefield.
At Greenwood Physical Therapy of Bethel, individualized care, knowledgeable staff, and state-of-the-art equipment provide the best of orthopedic and sports medicine services. Our experienced therapists at Greenwood provide the highest level of knowledge and care. Greenwood accepts most kinds of insurance, and staff are there to answer your questions. Open Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., the clinic serves the greater Danbury area and is a convenient drive from Reading. Appointments are available within 24 hours. Just call 203-917-4792 or visit greenwoodphysicaltherapy.com for more information.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan, and you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
And welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in studio. And Dom, we are joined by our first of 2 guests now today as we welcome the New Canaan Advertiser sports editor, Dave Stewart, to the show. Dave, how are you doing today?
Doing all right, getting ready for a couple of big games today, and then the big one, the real big one tomorrow night, Ridgefield, New Canaan.
You do have New Canaan and Darien swimming today. Always fun when the rivals get together, but let's focus on football for tomorrow, and let's start with the most obvious question of all. The freshman Drew Pine getting his first career start against the Tigers. What can we expect to see out of Drew tomorrow?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because he did get into the game last week. He wasn't the starter. They used their 3 quarterbacks there, so I feel like there was less pressure on him last week because, there were fallback options there. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds to that. He's obviously a little bit older than a freshman. He's more like a sophomore, junior type age, really, going in there. But I thought out of the 3 quarterbacks last night, I thought he looked the most comfortable out on the field. Of course, you had James Cravato in there starting, went 4 for 9 for 30 yards, had a fumble in there. Spencer Williams had a couple of incompletions. That was about it. So, and Pine led the one scoring drive they had, so on offense. And so it looks like, I'd like to see what he can do with a full game.
Now, Dave, you mentioned that that the offense struggled against Trinity Catholic, particularly and kind of surprisingly in the passing game. But the defense was actually quite good, forcing 5 turnovers. How do you think the defense of New Canaan matches up with that Tigers offense?
Well, the Tigers offense, Trinity. Let's put it this way: Trinity's a very good team. Their offense can move the ball, and so they're no pushovers. I think Ridgefield's a little more higher-powered, as Trumbull found out in the second half last week with that great comeback led by Drew Fowler and the wide receivers. It's going to be a tough call. This is a real tough game for New Canaan's defense. They did well last week. They forced 5 turnovers, a fumble, Jack Kircher knocking the ball loose at the 1-yard line, set up 1 touchdown. They had 4 interceptions, including James Frere returning it for a touchdown, which was really the game ender, so to speak, because it put New Canaan up by 2 scores in the fourth quarter. If they can force some turnovers there and at least try to slow down Fowler in the offense, that's going to be key. But it's going to be a tough call for them because as we saw, the Tigers can really move the ball once they get rolling.
And obviously, Dave, a lot of the success for the Tigers offense came in that passing game in the second half because they were chasing 14 points for most of it. But we saw that Drew Fowler is just as capable as a runner as he is a passer. How do the New Canaan linebackers match up against Fowler if he breaks the pocket and tries to scramble?
Yeah, this is the thing about all these guys in the secondary is going to be key, and I think New Canaan does have veterans there with Root and O'Connell out there. You got to keep an eye on him. The guy can motor. I think New Canaan's linebackers are capable of slowing him down, but he's one of the best around right now. He's a 3-year starter. So I think you're not going to be able to stop him altogether. So you kind of have to limit what he can do. And when I say the secondary is going to be key in that, I mean they have to stay with their men because if they come up to play the run, Fowler's going to find those guys, and they've got some very capable receivers out there, and that could burn New Canaan.
Now, you mentioned Ryan O'Connell, a force all over the field. He's one of those players that I think, you list his position as HPF. He plays football. That's his position. Yeah. Where do you see him making his biggest contribution against Ridgefield this week?
Well, I would like to see them, get him running the ball a little bit more. The offensive line for New Canaan did not have a great game the other day. They played a little bit better in the second half, but I thought overall, they were not in sync, which is surprising because I do think they outsized just about every team New Canaan will see this year. So if they can get going and O'Connell can get to start running the ball a little bit more, that'll keep the ball out of Fowler's hands and might not allow Ridgefield to get things rolling. And I think that's going to be where O'Connell could come up most key, because New Canaan's actually in the unusual position. They're usually on the other side of this, trying to limit the other team's offense the time that they have the ball. New Canaan's used to going up and down the field and scoring in past years with Michael Collins and their wide receivers that they've had, but I think this time it's the shoe's on the other foot, and they're going to have to keep the ball out of Ridgefield's hands.
And you make a good point, and we saw Trinity actually in that game, Dave. the one scoring drive they had, about 8 minutes of clock. But New Canaan, for the first time in 52 games since December of 2011, was held without a passing touchdown. Do you think that streak continues, Dave, or with Pine at the helm, they're able to figure out the passing game a little bit?
I think they'll be able to stick at least one in on the pass there, because I think Pine has that ability to get there. It's just a matter of his first varsity start and seeing how he handles it. And you're going to your first varsity start and you're getting Ridgefield here. He looked good at times. He made a few good passes. They have one 34-yard completion to O'Connell, where O'Connell stepped out at the 3-yard line and then ran it in on the second play. That was really the biggest offensive play of the game. And Pine was 4 for 6 for 70 yards. He threw an interception, but the interception was a tip by the wide receiver who didn't make a catch. I can't remember who it was, but ball flipped up into the air, and it was recovered by one of the Trinity players. It was kind of like one of those Eli Manning jobs for a few years ago, where his receivers couldn't hold on to the ball. But so it really wasn't his fault, in that case. So, again, I think New Canaan can score still score through the air. It's just a matter of you got to get this whole thing settled with the quarterback situation, and the O-line has to play better to give him time.
Dave, you mentioned last thought about Pine from me here, at least. The Ridgefield Tigers, a very talented team, but last week for large portions of the game looked vulnerable to the pass. Do you have any more thoughts on that matchup of Ridgefield's pass defense matching up against Trinity's offense?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, is that last week, when you get a great comeback like that at the end, everything looks fantastic, but Ridgefield had some issues there in that first half, and there were a lot of penalties too on top of everything else. So I think I think New Canaan can exploit that a little bit, and again, New Canaan's going to have a size advantage on the line, so they might be able to give Pine some time to throw. And he's got an arm on him. He can throw the ball. He can throw the ball well. He was on the mark with in most of his passes last week. So we'll see how that goes. But that is definitely a spot where that New Canaan could exploit.
And as good as Ridgefield looked in that comeback, Dave, something I think that was forgotten throughout the week was that 3 of their touchdowns came on essentially Hail Mary throws or broken plays by the defense on situations that were 3rd and 24, 3rd and 16, 4th and 8. We alluded to the experience that's in the back end for the Rams with O'Connell and Root back there. You've got newcomers in safety, Sean Knight, the junior, and Jackson Apelt, the senior. Do you think the Rams are as vulnerable to surrender the long pass as we saw Trumbull was?
No, I don't. I think because of those veterans that you were just mentioning there, like O'Connell and Root, Sean Knight's a great athlete, and Jackson Apelt is, in a couple of different sports, he's an awesome player. So I think those guys right there, that's going to be a big spot for New Canaan's defense. Again, they had 4 interceptions last week, and I think they could get a couple against Ridgefield too. And if they can win that turnover battle like that, I think that secondary can really, help them slow down Fowler, which is obviously going to be a key to the game.
Right. Dave, one last thing from me. After the break, we have your Ridgefield counterpart coming on, so we'll ask you both the same thing. What's the final score going to be?
Oh, it's such a hard call because in recent years I would have said this would be a game where you would see one team in the maybe both teams in the 40s, and it might be like the New Canaan North Haven game last year, what was 42-35. It's so hard to tell right now because of how New Canaan's offense sputtered last week, and really the defense is responsible for 14 of their points. I'm going to give the edge. I'm going to give the edge to New Canaan. Of course, I'm sitting in New Canaan right now, so that plays into it a little bit. But I have to come up with a final score. But I'm not going to be able to come up with a final score. But I'll give New Canaan the edge here because I think having that, when you have a team that's used to winning and knows how to win and has that kind of tradition there, you can't discount that no matter who's in on the field. And Ridgefield still has to get over that hump of they haven't beaten New Canaan in a while, and I'm sure they're going to be looking for the revenge factor. But if New Canaan starts to gets a lead or starts to play well with that, is that going to play into both teams' minds and help New Canaan and hurt Ridgefield?
Well, Dave, I'll give you a pass on the final score, but we'll expect one on FCX Tailgate tomorrow afternoon. But outside of Frere or O'Connell, who we've really mentioned, and even Pine, who's a player on New Canaan who could be an X factor for tomorrow's game?
I'd like to see, well, like we mentioned O'Connell, but I'd like to see some of the wide receivers get involved. A guy like Jack Holzer, Graham Braden was out there making some catches, and Zach Rectorman, who made a couple of catches last week. But a guy like Jack Holzer is a great athlete, great lacrosse player on another note. But getting a guy like that involved and having Pine maybe have a target to really go to as his number one would really help the freshman, and it could get the New Canaan offense clicking again.
Well, Dave, thanks for taking time out of the afternoon coming on with us. You'll be on FCX Tailgate at 5:15 with us tomorrow afternoon. We can't wait to see you there.
And I'll have the score for you. So.
Sounds good. Let's take a quick break on Nutmeg Sports, but when we get back, we'll be joined, as Don said, by Dave's counterpart, Tim Murphy of the Ridgefield Press, to preview the other side of tomorrow's matchup right here on the HAN Network.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
At InSports Trumbull, the game is always on inside. Recently renovated and home to one of Connecticut's largest indoor turf fields, InSports is a multi-sport recreation center providing state-of-the-art facilities for league play, camps, and youth programs. Players have access to soccer, lacrosse, football, baseball and softball, field hockey, rugby, basketball, volleyball, and social game facilities. InSports has also launched an early childhood development program, a daycare and pre-K program all rolled into one. Don't miss out on the fun. Find out more at insportscenters.com or call 203-268-1214.
Washington Prime, now open on Main Street in Georgetown. Come enjoy our relaxed setting, excellent service, award-winning nightly happy hours, and feast on our creative new American cuisine. Connecticut Magazine's winner for Best Steak, Washington Prime of Georgetown.
The leaves are changing, water temps dropping, and the sun is setting a little earlier each day. But there's still a lot of great boating, fishing, and coast time left before we see the first snow. And above all, remember, it's always summer at the Dock Shop. With loads of new fishing tackle and accessories, clothing, jewelry, and home decor, the Dock Shop is just what you need when you start to feel that New England autumn chill. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, dockshop.com.
At the Ridgefield Suzuki School, we believe that every child can. Using the internationally recognized Suzuki method, children learn to play their instrument in an environment of encouragement, parental support, and community. The Suzuki approach seeks to develop the whole child, to help unfold his or her natural potential to learn. Private lessons and group classes are offered on violin, viola, cello, and piano for children ages 4 and up, and young children can enroll in their school's early childhood classes before beginning an instrument. The Ridgefield Suzuki School, nurturing a love of music in all children. Call us at 203-403-2667 or visit ridgefieldsuzuki.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
You're watching the HAN Network, and you're not alone. More than 1.5 million viewers have watched our live sports, news, and entertainment broadcasting since the network launched in August 2015. Advertise on the network that reaches Fairfield County, Connecticut's most engaged audience. Contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
And welcome back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Donald Eng in the studio. We were just joined by Dave Stewart of the New Canaan Advertiser, but let's head to the other side of Pound Ridge now. And we are joined by Tim Murphy of the Richfield Press. Tim, how are you doing this afternoon?
Good. How you guys doing?
Can't complain. Let's start with last week quickly here, Tim. The Tigers able to rally back from a 17-point halftime deficit. They scored the final 29 points in that game. What stood out for you from that Tigers performance?
Well, just the resiliency. I mean, to come back, you know, that we're talking about this off air when Trumbull got the touchdown early in the third quarter after Richfield had scored to reestablish its big lead. You know, you figure that's it, but you know, to come back and they did all the scoring really in the last because the first touchdown after that came with 33 seconds left in the third quarter. So really, in like just the last 12 minutes and change, they scored 29 points. And you know, Kevin Callahan said he didn't really lose faith because he knew what kind of firepower they had on offense, and it just finally started to click.
And you know, Tim, one of the things we talked about with Dave is that, you know, that big comeback looks great when you look at the schedules and the results, but it can mask a lot of issues. I mean, for Ridgefield, they looked very vulnerable against the pass. A lot of penalties also. Well, what are your thoughts on that as they go into this week 2 matchup?
Yeah, I think, you know, some of that they attributed to the first half for opening of the season. Kevin Callahan told me they, you know, shifted some personnel around at halftime, so you know, I'm sure they are going to tinker with what they saw that was going wrong in the first half.
Well, Tim, obviously the Tigers were able to contain Marquise Wood for the Eagles, but Ryan O'Connell could be a whole nother story for the Rams. He expects to be involved in both the running and passing game. How do the Tigers match up against O'Connell in this one?
Yeah, I mean, he's scary, and you know, they're definitely worried about New Canaan's defense, which looked great in the opening day. I mean, I think, you know, Richfield offense against New Canaan's defense is quite an interesting battle, but the game might come down to the other side. You know, Richfield's defense against New Canaan's offense, which struggled a little bit last week. So, you know, both sides, it's a strength against strength and kind of uncertainty against uncertainty.
Yeah, it's kind of always the way it works out. We've been talking about New Canaan struggling with the passing offense. We've been talking about Ridgefield struggling with struggling on defense against the pass. And of course, the way it always works out is those two tend to cancel each other out. And then come Monday, we're talking about the running game and things like that. But speaking of the running game, Fowler, when he runs the ball, what do you see him? How do you see him against that New Canaan defense?
Fowler, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he can run, definitely. I mean, to go to a lot of the one-back or empty sets back there. So with Petros Papadopoulos, you know, who's an elusive runner. I mean, Richfield does most of its running after the catch. You know, for them, a run is like a 4-yard pass, and then let those guys go. You know, they've got the two big guys, Lowe and Longo, on the outside, who are just great targets and athletic, and then, you know, Palmer and Lombardo and all those really quick guys who, you know, can just explode when they get the ball. So New Canaan's going to really want to smother these guys when they make the catch, because a 4-yard gain easily turns into a 15 for Richfield.
And Tim, Chris Longo was really held in check by the Eagles. We saw him have the one big play in the second half after Coach Kevin Callahan shifted him to the slot. We anticipate we'll see Richfield in a lot of empty sets. Do you think that Longo returns to the slot, or they try to get him the ball from the outside again?
That's a good question. I mean, I think they'll, you know, match up and see where, you know, the Canaan's matchup problem might be in terms of height. You know, he's capable of doing both. And you saw that long run where he just carried the defensive back for about 15 yards. I mean, so he's tough to bring down after the catch. But yeah, I could see them doing the, you know, variety of sets with him in the slot on the outside.
And another thing, Tim, I'm concerned about, for the Tigers at least, we saw how strong that New Canaan defense was against Trinity. Clearly, they're the strength of this Rams team. If they bring pressure to this inexperienced offensive line, could this game sort of fall out of reach for Ridgefield early on?
Well, that's going to be a big key right there, because, you know, the line, like you said, they have a few starters back. The senior center, Dan Banky, missed the first game last week, and Kevin was hopeful he'll return, so that would be a big help. You know, he's kind of an anchor of that line. So without him, you know, they have to switch some people around. That could be something to watch to see if he's back.
Now, you mentioned that Ridgefield's line is inexperienced, but on the other side of the ball, Drew Pine, a freshman playing in his second ever high school football game. Well, what do you think Richfield needs to do to kind of, I guess, either rattle him, get him off his game a little bit?
You just send some big, 270-pound guys running after him. And he's probably, I'm sure it's a big step up. He's obviously very skilled, but he just hasn't seen this kind of type of physical presence before. He saw it last week, and I think they're going to, the goal is going to be to put a lot of pressure on him and rattle him and, make him think about what's coming next.
Now, you spoke with Coach Callahan earlier in the week, Murph. Obviously, in the first half, the secondary for the Tigers was exposed. Despite the inexperience, the arm strength is there for Pine. There's the possibility he could air it out and go after the secondary for the Tigers. What did Coach Callahan say about his secondary following this loss? Or win, excuse me.
Yeah, I think, that's one area where they shifted some people around, so you might see some changes back there, get a little more speed, because they do have some people. Richard really tries to not play many people both ways at all, so, but they might have to do that a little bit more with some of their better athletes who can play in the secondary.
Tim, last thing from me here. The New Canaan sports editor picked New Canaan to beat the Tigers. As Richfield sports editor, what's your prediction on the game there?
I'm going to say 27-17 Richfield, and I will expect Mr. Stewart to treat me at Le Bernardin.
Same stakes as always, okay.
Well, we tell you what, Dave.
I'll make the reservation.
Dave was unable to give us a score prediction. He said he will have it tomorrow when we get on to FCX Tailgate. We'll be joined with you on FCX Tailgate again, so we're looking forward to that. Just one more thing from me. If it's not Drew Fowler, who's an X factor that makes an impact on this game for the Tigers?
I think Colin Lowe. He can stretch defenses out. He's got the speed and he's got the height. He's such an inviting target. I think really in close goal line situations, you can just, Longo to an extent too, but Lowe, can just really throw that ball up there and let him come back if, you don't have any defensive backs that are 6 foot. You're giving away 5 inches. So that's a huge advantage in the red zone.
And Lowe really had a big game in the second half specifically. He had the 2 touchdown catches, high pointed the ball very well, winning those jump ball battles. Murph, thanks for taking time with us today. We'll see you tomorrow on FCX Tailgate, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, I'm getting hungry.
So, Don, we made it through 4 days, first of all. I think we can get by with just 2 cups of coffee next Thursday.
That's the plan, yes. My esophageal tube there will be very happy about that.
We won't see you again before the game tomorrow, so we'll ask you right now, who do you like in this one and by what score?
Well, I was impressed with Richfield. I was impressed with their resilience, their depth. But the simple fact of the matter is no one playing tomorrow no one playing for New Canaan tomorrow has ever lost to an FCX team other than Darien. It's been since the 2012 season that an FCX team, and that was Trinity Catholic, that beat New Canaan. So until someone beats them, you have to figure that New Canaan is just going to find a way. They always have, at least in recent memory. So I'm going to go with the Rams. I'm going to say 28-14.
It's very interesting picking a New Canaan game and not saying scores up in the 30s or 40s. It's a little weird. Another fun fact to think about, New Canaan, since Dunning Stadium opened in 1998, has lost a total of 18 games there since 1998. So in 18 years, they've lost a game a year. I don't think this is the one. But we'll talk more about that on FCX Tailgate tomorrow. I'll make sure that Kate Chaplensky and I both tweet our guesses at this day in history towards you. Thanks for watching Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. We're live all day from Dunning Stadium tomorrow, so check out Coffee Break at 11 a.m. with Kate Chaplensky. We'll see you then.